Well, thank you for inviting me. It's a very exciting moment. Dr. Shimon Ohayon in Merkaz Dahan Center. Really thank you. It was challenge, as I have two babies. I came with them from Israel last week, but I'm so happy to be here. I will take you through my research and how I transformed it into a live exhibit. It was a long process and very interesting one. The research title was inspired by the word stamps on the exhibit, on the exit certificates and passports of hundreds of thousands of Jews. Rihla bidun raja, rahaba la raja, living, never to return. And it took on a deeper meaning while doing my MA in diplomacy in the Tel Aviv University. Notwithstanding their sense of connection to the culture of the Muslim countries in which they lived, Jews throughout the generation, and especially in the modern age, also suffered hardships that forced them to uproot themselves, transforming many of them into refugees. A combination of different factors made the uprooting of Jews from Arab countries a necessity and forced them to forced their immigration. Some of the Jews would not have immigrated had conditions been different, and therefore became refugees who fled to save their lives. In their countries of origin, they lived under threat and persecution, riots and harassment, their property and belonging expropriated or confiscated, their rights breached. Some were forced to sign documents that relinquished their possession in order to permit it to leave the country. Essentially, all of their possession and property were confiscated, while all the property they could carry with them were limited to one suitcase, and it gives me the inspiration, and you will see it shortly. Here you see, I found lots of documents, and here you see a passport. It's a République Française, but here again, it stamps. The passport, it stamps. It's the passport of Sofer, Yitzhak Sofer, saying in Arabic, literally, final departure. In the process, I decided to go out and investigate, being familiar with numbers of stories of refugees, including the one of Rabbi Eliyahu Abadie, as well as the subject of reparation of property, further my desire to examine this issue. The recent question on the returning of property of Arab Jews and examining the way in which Israeli media framed and represented this issue in diplomacy with Arab countries was one of the first topics I researched in the context of Arab Jews in my graduate degree in Tel Aviv University. This was my main emphasis of extending the research and creating the display and exhibit, which I will present shortly. In the course of my research on the reparation of property, several issues became clear and of utmost importance to me. Firstly, the need to correct the injustice done to the Arab and Iranian Jews by the countries they lived. Secondly, the need to correct the injustice done to them by the state of Israel, who ignore their stories and their plight. Thirdly, the realization of the existence of a significant Jewish refugees population. Through my continued research, I further realized what a multifaceted issue this is. Firstly, the extent to which Arab and Iranian Jews suffered at the hands of their neighbors in their countries of origin during different time periods. Secondly, it is appalling to encounter academics who still consider this issue controversial, questioning the legitimacy of refugee status of this population. Thirdly, there exists a reluctance on part of this population to discuss the suffering and hardship that they experience as refugees. Fourthly, the lack of basic information, statistic database of total property left behind. I realized that this issue of the suffering of the Jewish refugees in the face of the suffering of the Palestinian refugees was unbalanced, and it felt for me a strong need to change the historical narrative of the injustice of the Arab states towards the Jews, since in effect the Jews were displaced from their countries or alternatively become political prisoners. At the time of their escape, their rights and personal collective properties such as pension, funds, lands, etc., were abandoned, confiscated without any remuneration from the Arab government. Here you see some documents, again, that I found with the stamp, living never to return. This is from Iraq. Here you can see, hold on, here you can see as well certificates of refugee. Vivian Acker, she's with us right now in the audience, but it's her, she's a refugee. They became refugees, we cannot ignore that. I also found lots of newspapers in the origin from Iraq. This is in Iraq, and it's amazing to see that they are saying that Iraq, I'm just translating it, but this was published in Iraq, saying that the Iraqi government agrees to the population exchange between Iraqi Jews and the Palestinian refugees on the condition that all Jewish property in Iraq will be given to the Iraqi government. A lot of more letters and publish on the confiscation of Jewish properties, amendments, freeze the asset management regulation to froze all the property. This is the word rihla bidun raja. If you know how to read Arabic, this I found in an Egyptian magazine. Again, talking about the big escape of thousands of Jews that were deported from the country overnight. This is from Syria, confiscation of Jews' property in Syria. It's really, if you see it, I thought it's amazing because they took it for the intelligence in the Syria, the property of the Jewish people who live there. And I found lots of, as I told you, I found lots of newspapers saying foreclose the property of Arab Jews, Arab countries confiscate Jewish property. What else? Again, what the Israel state did with that. And I also, this is what I'm showing you here, it's really like a point of all this big research. But it was for me also important to find what happened before. Here you see a caricature that I found in one of the Algerian magazine, looking at the Muslim trying to take le décret Crémieux from the Jewish. The Jewish people received citizenship, French citizenship. This is from 1896. Again, lots of anti-Jewish action in Tunis, Libyan Jews in the shadow of impending pogroms, Moroccan Jewry in danger, anti-Semitic propaganda in Libya, the Holocaust of the Jewish in Aden. Nobody really know anything about it. The condition of Jews of Aden as the Warsaw ghetto. Syrian Jews live in an atmosphere of fear. Jewish children are kidnapping for destruction in Aden. 4 Jewish women murdered in Damascus, likely by Syrian extremists. So all that, it was for me a journey in time and journey to the places in which my ancestor once lived as part of different Jewish communities whose descendants currently constitute more than half of the population of the State of Israel. It became an historical, educational journey for the intricacies and uniqueness of each and every community, but above all, it became an emotional journey into the complex life of the Jews who lived in 11 communities in Arab and Iran. The stories I heard during my research, the life testimonials of the first, second, and third generation. By the way, I'm a third generation of Jews from Iran, Lebanon, and Syria. The photographs, the movies I watched, the frequent visit in the archives, the heritage centers, the meeting and the conversation with the different communities, and also the work I did in one of the countries, in Morocco. I was working there, opened for me a rich and diverse world of different cultures, including various rituals, success, prosperity, and flourishing, of costume, of sounds, taste, and smell. But beyond all of this, I discovered the existence of pain, anger, frustration, and longing, because in a moment, their lives were shaken and displaced there, becoming refugees and denumbering we are hearing. It's about 850,000 from Arab countries and Iran, some say million. Here you see in the photos my family. You see Fauzi Mizrahi Aburish. My name is Avrish, but it was Aburish at first. And he's celebrating his bar mitzvah in Damascus. And here, I think if you hear, it's the Nightingale of Iran. My aunt was married, Yunus Dardashti, in Iran, and he was really like with a great voice. So on all those stories and singing, I'm living, it's like from very, very little age. And of course, in Israel, every Friday afternoon, we were watching the Arabic, we are saying Arab movies, but it's an Egyptian movie. And I remember clearly Leila Morad, which you hear her now, but she was really like very famous. She was Jewish, and there was no one that didn't know her. So here you see me in the production of one of the film I did there. I worked as a producer with Sasson Gabai, the Israeli actress, and Ellie Cohen on the TV series Egoz. And it was really like, or I did different other things, but here me in Ouarzazate and in Marrakesh for a different video clip for Laura Fabian. But all that brought to me the sense of, wow, what an amazing life they had there. Again, here we see them from Egypt and all this flourishing, which is flourishing life. Women, this is women in the car in the 1926 this is from Algeria, or black tie engaged party. This is also from Libya. How beautiful it is from Iran. So all that really like show me that not just tragic history exists in their countries of origin. Alongside it also a flourishing cultural, economic, social, and communal prosperity. And even the Islamic environment in which Jews lived positively influenced their lives and work. Jews integrated well beyond the relative share of the population, both Muslim and European, into the state's economy, the commerce, banking, private business, and professions, including doctors, nurses in the hospital, pharmacists, journalists, lawyers, university professors, and teachers. So, inspired by the law, but this law that we are all here for it, inspired by this law of the day departure and deportation of Jews from Arab and Iranian countries, and as an initial expression of my research, I created the artistic display named Etz or Palit. It's a play on word. Etz means in Hebrew tree, and Palit means refugee. And this is the dual life that I always felt strongly, that dual life that they had there. In one time, it's like flourishing as I described, and the other hand, hard time they had there. So this I did with the support of the Ministry of Social Equality at the International Conference Center in Jerusalem in November 30, 2016. And it expressed in a creative, focused, and exciting way the complexity of their life there. During the process, I found that every community has many facets and deep and diversity strata, but on the other hand, there is also a strong common denominator in the Jewish religion and tradition to which Jews were inextricably connected, as bound them together. Some were more pious and some less, but religion and tradition have always influenced their way of life. Jewish identity, Jewish education, fraternity and communal unity have maintained their relative integrity despite the modern life that began to affect everyday life in some communities. The role of Jewish religion as a guardian, unifying, and influencing factor among all communities was sharpened for me in one of the interviews I conducted. I heard a story that happened in the Jadu labor camp in World War II. A Nazi officer entering a barrack crowded with some 100 inmates ran his finger over the dusty wooden bin and threatened the inmates with heavy punishment if the barrack was not cleaned. In the absence of anything but their scant clothing, one man took out his talit, detached its fringe, and turned it into a cloth. And so, more than the Jews preserving the talit preserved them. And furthermore, despite the fact the Jews in Arab countries sought to be part of the tree, the roots, the connection to this land, to integrate, they never forgot the connection to the people of Israel and to Israel as a whole, to the same talit that retained their identity, and it was the one that allowed them to overcome the refugee strategy. So here we see what I created, as I created really the talitot, the talit. You see here, like every community, because there is a uniqueness of each community as a very big differentiation, and I wanted to emphasize it. So on this, inspired by this Jadu camp story, I'm creating this talit as a background, and you can see really like the life they had there. And inside of that installation, of this display, I'm creating the Suitcase Installation. And as we heard before, Rabbi Abadie said, my father had really like nothing to carry. They were allowed to carry one suitcase, and if they had 4 children under the age of 18, they were allowed to carry only one suitcase for all the children with them. And by that, I took this suitcase installation, and I was preparing it. You see, it's my writing head in Arabic, saying this is the name of the head of the family, the father, with the serial number. And in one of the suitcases, I collected so many photos that really expressed seemed too, sorry, like it's out of my head, like how they put all their life, cultural life, into one suitcase. The complexity of dual life, on the one hand of the tree connected to the ground, and the other hand reflected, it was a study, and I'm also looking, they were living as a dima, a lower class, paying the jiza, a tax to live. So we all talked about it before, but the excited reaction of visitors following this display has proven that this is a silent history that many do not know of. This reaction sparked a sense of purpose for me to present the complete Jewish story of these communities. It created in me a sense of responsibility to raise awareness and provide a central and important place to which many audience will be exposed. This would be able to illustrate the story of the Jewish communities in Arab and Iranian communities, a story that is a testament to a magnificent community that were and are no longer, at least in most of Arab countries. My goal was to raise and empower community members to showcase the diverse sides of their lives, wealth, and modern life, to break down many misconceptions in the Israeli society, and to complete the missing piece of the historic mosaic for the benefit of future generations. In doing so, I embarked on a depth study that included, among other things, in-depth interviews with members of various communities, locating original documents as I just showed you. I locating hundreds of rare and sacred objects, which I researched, photographed, document, highlighting the uniqueness of each community, its cultural richness, and its unique stories. I also located original sound and video clips that illuminate various points of community life, analyzing press clipping from countries of origin that highlight the transformation and upheaval of Jewish community life, collected photographs and references that underpin the research, met with leading researchers from Israel and around the world. Examining all of this helped me to deciphering a cultural, social, religious, and political cipher of a millennium of Jewish life. The climax of all this research and my exploration of this subject was to transform it into the creation of the exhibition that you just see behind me, Living, Never to Return, at Eretz Israel Museum in Tel Aviv. The exhibition design I did also the design. My first degree, by the way, is design and architecture. The second, the master, was in diplomacy. And here we see really like, first of all, you see the two sides of the Talitot. Each community received his own unique space, which I show also the artifacts. And the design of this, I did it with, like, they lived in Muslim country. There was a lot of influence from those Muslim countries. So the arches, the symmetry, the musharabiyah, it's the wall, the divide in between them. So from the architectural, Islamic architectural. So all that I'm showing in the exhibition. So again, there is the motif of the talit and the motif of all the other objects. The Jews specialize in creating high-quality jewelry and embroidery, Judaica, religious objects and clothing. The Jews were the originator and conservators of local music, since the Shiite were prohibited from practicing secular music. Many were gifted musicians who were recognized by the non-Jewish society and became known as experts in the local classical music. Many became famous around the world for their talents. Won senior government position, helped their countries flourish. We have so many names, like Yechezkel Sasson in Iraq, and really, like, the list is so long, and I'm showing this in the exhibition. They established sports association whose members participate in local and international competition. There was also great spiritual development and creativity. One of the most important being the compilation of, for Babylonian Talmud, one of the greatest contribution of Jews' law and continuity. So we see here, I was like finding hundreds of objects, and each object telling a story. By the way, here you see the part of Lebanon, and you see a photo of Rabbi Abadie. He's also here. He is like a superstar. Okay. So here you see, for instance, like I'm getting a little bit deeper in detail as an example of Morocco. You see the talit, but you see also the Elexwell Kbira, the big dress. You see the kids, the girls in a school camp, and you see the houses. So this is one part of the talit which I'm showing, and this is the dual life that I wanted to express. And the other side with the red title, it's the hard time they had there. And it's very like chronological, which I'm showing it by the dates. Rare and original objects, scarce and secular, each of these objects illuminate and revealed another layer in the life of Jewish and Arab countries, shedding light on their culture, rituals, everyday life, social life, trade life, leisure culture, their spiritual wealth alongside their physical wealth, their belief, and their talent. Each item, photograph, document, or video that I researched and presented was selected to tell the unique story and sub-theme they represent for each community. Thus, for the first time, showing the uniqueness of each community was illuminated and even helped to correct the miscellaneous and the inclusive term used to the lump of all these distinct communities into one, Mizrahi Oriental. I had a problem with this, like saying they're all Mizrahi. It's not true. It's like really each community by itself. I also chose in the exhibition to bring my personal connection to each of these 11 communities, which was in fact part of what pushed me and strengthened me and inspired me throughout all these 3 years of research. It also created an emotional, intimate, and exciting connection for the viewer to the various communities. Furthermore, members of the communities or their descendants who visit the exhibition or were exposed to the many stories were recognized and respected in Israeli society. They felt really like somebody is looking at us. They felt so motivated. This was tremendously exciting and empowering for them. And this is the evidence by the many of the responses I received by emails, thank you letters, also the media that hugged it. Many responses came from the third generation who are racing to keep their stories alive, are filled with a sense of pride. And what I can tell you, they feel really like the history is there for them. Here we see, like from Yemen, like I can really like discuss and explain for hours about each and every item, but we don't have the time for it right now. So I'm just really, this is an argila from Aden. It's even written on the word on Aden, but it's expressed the life they had. They used to gather together, studying Torah, and smoking the nargila, having the ja'la, the beans that they were eating. Have a look, like the richness and the flourishing and the work they did by those items. Here we see also from Iraq. So, hold on. I'm about to finish. I will conclude the lecture with a video that comes from Lebanon, but represent to me the inner joy that exists in these communities, and I really hope that I made a contribution to empowering the communities and bringing their stories to the front of public disclosure, and I will continue to do so, Be'ezrat Hashem. It is extremely important for me that this exhibition will find its way around the world to continue education and inspiring as many people as possible. So please reach out to me if you have any way to facilitate this. So here we are with Lebanon. Music, let's dance. It was beautiful to see it. I found lots of videos, and this one is the one they are, like, normally every Shabbat, when the Shabbat was over, Shabbat night, Motzei Shabbat, they were gathering, they were dancing. It's amazing that the modernity was influencing them, but they look like, it's black and white, but it looks like nowadays. Thank you.